The desert wind howled across the ruins of Memphis, coarse grains of sand whispering forgotten truths to no one but the dead. Amun-Ra crouched beneath a fractured obelisk, brushing sand from a buried obsidian slab etched with symbols predating even the Old Kingdom. His cybernetic fingertips pulsed faintly as they scanned the surface, transmitting the glyphs in real time to his neural HUD. It's older than anything we've cataloged. Pre-dynastic yet engineered. Precise. Too precise for copper tools, he muttered. Hovering nearby in silence, Katal's shimmering violet exosuit flickered as the Zarn historian adjusted his spectro-optic feed. The alien's voice was calm, but edged with skepticism. You humans see myth in your ruins. Perhaps that is the only way you can accept your primitive origins. Amun stood, brushing dust from his cloak. Or maybe we see myth because we remember what you've forgotten. We're not asking the right questions. This isn't just archaeology anymore. It's recovery. Beneath them, embedded deep in what was once the sacred necropolis, the vault stirred. Buried under millennia of sediment and silence, it remained dormant, until now. The slab beneath Amun's boots trembled slightly, humming with residual energy. His retinal display flickered with new data. Resonance frequencies, carbon inconsistencies, something else, a coded ping. Katal cocked his head. A signal? It's not just a tomb. It's a lock. And we just brushed the key. As if responding to recognition, a low harmonic pulse rolled across the sand, rippling outward like a heartbeat. The air thickened, the shadows along the ruins distorting subtly. Katal stepped back instinctively, his dermal fins flaring. This site is restricted under Article 7 of the Galactic Heritage Accord. You're not authorized to probe deeper. Amun turned slowly, eyes burning with conviction. You brought me here because your people are afraid of what humans might discover. If our past reveals we've touched forces even the Union doesn't understand, what does that make us? Dangerous. A new voice chimed through their shared comm link, breaking the tension. Doctor. Rod. This is Delta Orbital Command. We've received confirmation. The signal you triggered is synchronizing with old orbital telemetry. Pre-age collapse. Static buzzed. Proceed with caution. Below the obelisk, stone parted with a sound like grinding bones. A staircase descended into darkness, lit by faint blue glyphs. Amun stepped forward without hesitation. Katal hesitated, gaze lingering on the entrance, then followed. The passage beneath was impossibly smooth, unmarked by tool or erosion. It curved in impossible geometry, folding upon itself subtly, like a Mobius strip carved into sandstone. Time felt different inside. Minutes dragged and blinked by in the same breath. At the heart lay the vault, a hemispherical chamber of polished blackstone, hovering a few centimeters off the ground, untouched by gravity. Its surface shimmered with unreadable inscriptions that shifted when viewed directly. A sphere of compressed data, compressed memory. Amun placed his hand on its surface. Neural threads flared to life as the vault spoke. Memory unlocked. Sequence, final protocol. Subject, collapse. A vision poured into their minds. Ancient Egypt radiant and alive. The Nile surged with power, its banks lined with towers that hummed with energy siphoned from something far beyond solar. Priests in white linen wielded staffs encoded with harmonic frequencies. Pharaoh Negereket IV stood before a crowd, not a king, but a conductor, preparing the final act of a civilization symphony. We sought to bind the gods not through worship, said the voice within the vision, but through understanding. In doing so, we found something else entirely. Images twisted, sandstorms devouring cities, time dilating over pyramids, priests aging a century in minutes while their acolytes remained untouched. The experiment spiraled. Portals opened and refused to close. The sky cracked with light that had no source. The voice trembled. We tore open a truth not meant for our time. The vision collapsed. Amun staggered back, sweat on his brow despite the cool air. Katal steadied him, his expression unreadable. It wasn't war, or famine, or hubris, Amun said softly. They erased themselves on purpose, to protect the timeline. Katal looked down at the vault. No species in the Union has done that willingly. A new signal pulsed from the vault. It was no longer dormant. Across the sand above, satellites aligned without command. Signals whispered into deep space. Data packets encoded in a long-forgotten dialect. Amun's comlink buzzed again, more frantic this time. Doctor, Raid, we're detecting unauthorized transmissions. You're activating something outside the grid. Disengage now. He didn't move. They didn't fail. They ascended, then sealed the doorway behind them. And now you're opening it, Katal said. The vault glowed, growing, warmer to the touch. Outside, winds began to howl louder, no longer random but rhythmic, echoing a pulse that hadn't been heard in 5,000 years. I think, Amun said quietly, it just remembered us. The sands above the vault shifted restlessly, as though responding to a command whispered from beneath. Amun-Raid stood motionless, his hand still pressed to the now pulsing surface. Information streamed into his neural interface faster than he could process. Fractal patterns, DNA helixes overlaid with star charts, time-locked equations humming with ancient intent. The vault wasn't a relic, it was an invitation. Katal adjusted his spectral dampeners, his voice tight. The Union will quarantine this site if they detect a chronometric surge. That signal, what it just sent, wasn't just data, it was a request. Amun finally pulled his hand away, the light dimming with his withdrawal. A request for what? Reintegration, Katal replied, scanning the room with a lens that flickered between dimensions. You humans are reckless with your inheritance. You don't know what they sealed away. But I'm beginning to understand why they did, Amun said. They weren't just experimenting. They were custodians. The priests of Nedjeriket IV didn't summon gods. They tried to contain them. And when they couldn't, they chose extinction over expansion. From the wall to their right, a tremor ran through the stone. A glyph burst into motion, unraveling into a stream of light that coiled through the air before crashing into the vault. The floor trembled. A hatch appeared at the vault's base, folding open like the petals of a stone lotus. A narrow stairwell spiraled downward into deeper dark. Do you feel that? Amun asked. Katal nodded. Mass distortion. There's something below that exists partially outside our dimension. Amun moved forward. Then that's where the answers are. As they descended, the air changed. It thickened, not with heat or pressure, but with memory. Their visors displayed chemical compositions that made no sense. Helium-10 isotopes, inertium dust, particles not native to Earth or even to known space. The staircase ended in a domed chamber of gold-veined obsidian. In its center stood a single figure, humanoid in shape, wrapped in linen strips glowing with pulsing light. Its face was a blank, reflective mask, yet Amun could feel its gaze, ancient, exhausted, aware. It's a containment shell, Katal whispered, a living seal. The figure spoke without moving. I am Sa'atun, last of the memory binders, who summons the echo of Egypt's oath. Amun took a careful step forward. I am Amun-Raid, historian, human, seeker of truths buried beneath the sands. The truth you seek carries consequence, Sa'atun said. Our fall was not collapse. It was sacrifice. We contained the rift and shattered our own continuity to prevent a return. A return of what? Amun asked. Sa'atun turned his reflective mask toward Katal. He knows. His kind cataloged the rift's edge. They called it unreality. We called it Apophis. Katal's voice dropped. The anomaly beyond the dark rift? The one that devoured a system during first contact? Sa'atun nodded. It was drawn to sentient pattern resonance, thought, civilization. We cracked open the veil to touch eternity, and it stared back. Our priests could not defeat it, but we tricked it, trapped it in a loop of dream and memory. The vault is that loop. But the signal we triggered, Amun started, may have weakened the seal, Sa'atun finished. Above, another tremor. Emergency beacons lit Amun's HUD. Union satellites were moving into defensive formations. A ship was already descending. We have to warn them, Katal said. We have to shut it down. You cannot, Sa'atun said gently. Now that the seal has been disturbed, only one path remains, rebinding, and for that, the blood of the origin must act. Your voice. Amun's pulse raced. Why me? Because your lineage carries the harmonic memory. Your ancestor was one of us, a binder, the last true pharaoh. Data flooded Amun's neural interface, crashing through years of silence. The fragments, half-dreams from childhood, obsessions with glyphs he'd never studied, rhythms that haunted his sleep, weren't imagination. They were echoes, echoes calling him home. What do I have to do? He asked. Sa'atun extended a hand. A sliver of gold light peeled from his chest and hovered toward Amun like a shard of a broken star. Accept the mantle. Become the voice once more. Katal's eyes narrowed. You don't have time to weigh consequences. If Apophis returns, there won't be a timeline left to argue over. Amun reached out, trembling, and grasped the shard. In an instant, fire and memory tore through his body. Glyphs scorched into his skin in light alone, and visions surged. Cities built on sound, skies laced with coded clouds, ceremonies of harmonic balance woven into architecture. Then darkness, unreality, yawning at the edge of perception. The thing beyond stars waiting still. When he opened his eyes, his voice had changed, deeper, older. I remember now. Outside, the wind screamed again, but this time not in chaos, in rhythm. Amun turned toward the vault. We have one chance to reseal the pattern. We'll need the satellite harmonics, the neural relay, and me at the core. Katal nodded. I'll handle the relay. But if I fail, history collapses. He looked once more at Sa'atun, who bowed in farewell and slowly dissolved into golden dust. Amun ascended the stairwell, no longer just a seeker. Now he was the key. The wind above the vault howled like a living thing, pulsing with the resonance of a reality struggling to hold its shape. Amun stood at the apex of the relay structure, surrounded by concentric rings of ancient technology now interfacing with Union hardware. The glyphs from his skin burned brighter with each passing second, syncing with the expanding hum of frequencies too complex for any single language to define. Katal moved with urgency through the control dais, fingers gliding across a holographic interface. The harmonics are aligned, but the central frequency is destabilizing. If it shifts any further— I know, Amun said. His voice echoed with layers now, his own, overlaid with the tones of 100 ancestors. We've awakened the rift's attention. It's aware. A ripple spread through the air, like heat-bending vision. The sky overhead fractured just slightly, like a cracked mirror, and beyond it, something vast and wrong pressed against the boundary of existence. Not an entity in form, but in hunger, memory. The collapse of ancient Egypt had not been a political failure, but a containment effort, one that sacrificed an entire civilization to encode and bury knowledge that no civilization should have possessed. Amun reached into the neural interface, allowing the mantle to fully integrate. Memories not his own poured in, ceremonial battles fought on planes of sound, sacrifices sung into reality, the final moments of the high priests who laced time itself with safeguards. They had buried the rift within dream and myth, hoping the world would forget. But forgetting made it stronger. "Begin the binding protocol," Amun said. Katal hesitated. "If this works, you'll be severed from all known time frames. You'll exist only in the harmonic field, between moments." "That's where it lives," Amun replied. "It's the only place I can face it." Katal keyed the command. The rings around Amun began to rise, orbiting him like planetary halos, each etched with luminous scripture that pulsed to the beat of his heart. The vault beneath them thrummed as its failsafes engaged. A pillar of light arced into the sky, piercing the broken mirror of space like a spear. From the crack, a thread of black reached down, thin, shifting, but impossibly fast. The rift had noticed. It would not be bound quietly. "I need amplification," Amun said, gasping now. The force of time itself was dragging against him, resisting his anchoring presence. "Focus the Union satellites. Channel every harmonic node." "They'll overload," Katal warned. "They were made to," Amun replied, eyes flashing. The sky turned white as a cascade of pulses erupted from orbit. Energy spiraled into the vault, feeding the containment structure with frequencies that made even Katal stagger. The thread of darkness coiled and shrieked, not with sound, but with the collapse of possibility. Worlds flickered in and out of existence along its path, futures that could have been, histories that were denied. And then it struck. Amun did not scream. Instead, he sang. The voice of the pharaohs, woven with the song of the bindings, resonated across the plane of perception. Every word he spoke was a seal, every note a lock. He was no longer human in form. He became language, became rhythm, became intention. The thread of the rift met him head-on and was halted, not destroyed, but wrapped in a loop so tightly wound it folded in on itself. A final push, a moment of silence deeper than space. Then, collapse. The sky repaired itself. The vault groaned and sealed. The rings fell inert, their glyphs dark. Katal rose from behind the dais, his sensors trembling from residual interference. "Amun?" he called. Silence. Where the historian had stood, there was only dust in the air, and a soft hum, echoing like the last breath of a long-forgotten choir. In the Union archives, sensors detected a new pattern emerging in Earth's electromagnetic field, a subtle, harmonic rhythm repeating at impossible intervals. They named it the raid wave, in honor of the man who vanished while holding back the dark. In time, humanity would forget again, but Katal did not. And somewhere in a place outside time, the voice of the binders watched, waiting.